My mother-in-law wants me to give up my 3-year-old daughter to my sister-in-law. When I refuse, she threatened to take me to court to steal custody for being an irresponsible parent, which I'm not. My wife, Jennifer, died 2 years ago from cancer, and I've been raising our daughter, Sophie, alone ever since. It's been the hardest thing I've ever done, but we've built a good life together. I work from home as a software developer, got her into a great preschool, and my sister helps out when needed. Sophie's therapist says she's adjusting remarkably well. Then, last Tuesday, Jennifer's mom, Barbara, showed up at my door with my sister-in-law, Amanda, and her husband, David. They asked to talk, so I invited them in. Sophie was at preschool, thank God. We sat in my living room, and Barbara cleared her throat. She said they'd been talking as a family and decided it would be best if Amanda and David raised Sophie. I actually laughed because I thought she was joking, but Barbara's face stayed serious. She said Amanda and David had been trying for years to have a baby and couldn't. They had a big house. Amanda could stay home full-time, and Sophie deserved a real family with 2 parents. Amanda nodded along, saying Sophie needs a mother figure and stability. I felt my blood pressure rising. I told them absolutely not. Sophie is my daughter, and we're doing perfectly fine. I reminded them that I'm her legal parent, and this conversation was insane. Barbara's expression went cold. She leaned forward and said, "If you didn't agree to do what was right, she'd take me to court." She claimed she had evidence. I was an unfit parent. Leaving Sophie with babysitters and my sister while I worked was neglect. Working from home meant I was distracted and unavailable. My house being messy sometimes showed I couldn't manage. I stood up and told them to get out. Barbara said I'd be hearing from her lawyer and that I was being selfish. Amanda started crying, saying all she wanted was to be a mom. I felt bad for a second, but then I remembered they were trying to take my child. 3 days later, a process server showed up at my door. Barbara had actually filed for grandparent custody rights, claiming I was emotionally unstable from grief and neglecting Sophie's needs. I called my lawyer immediately. She read through the petition and actually laughed. She said these claims were ridiculous and wouldn't hold up, but we needed to take it seriously. We spent the next 2 weeks gathering evidence. I got letters from Sophie's preschool teachers praising her development. Her pediatrician wrote about how healthy and happy she was. My employer confirmed my stable work situation. My sister wrote a statement about our family support system, but the worst part was the waiting. I couldn't stop wondering what Barbara had told Amanda to convince her this was okay. They were trying to rip apart my family using the legal system. Court day finally came. I dressed Sophie in her favorite dress with butterflies. She had no idea what was happening. Thought we were going to see Grandma Barbara. My lawyer said the judge would likely want to speak with Sophie, and I should prepare for that. We sat in the courtroom and Barbara's lawyer presented their case. They had photos of my house with toys scattered around, claiming it was unsafe and chaotic. They had statements from neighbors saying they sometimes heard Sophie crying, which apparently meant I couldn't comfort her. They even had my work schedule, highlighting the hours my sister watched Sophie as proof I was absent. My lawyer calmly presented our evidence. The preschool letters, the pediatrician's glowing report, photos of Sophie's bedroom, her artwork on our fridge, us at the park, character statements from friends and family. Then the judge said she wanted to speak with Sophie alone in her chambers. My heart nearly stopped. Sophie looked scared, but the judge was kind and took her hand. They were gone for 15 minutes that felt like hours. When they came back, Sophie ran straight to me and hugged my leg. The judge sat down and looked directly at Barbara. She said that Sophie had told her some very interesting things about visits to Grandma's house. Barbara's face went white. The judge pulled out a folder and said that during their conversation, Sophie had mentioned the special game Grandma taught her. The game where Grandma would pretend to be Mommy and make Sophie call Amanda Mama during sleepovers. My stomach dropped. Barbara had been coaching my daughter behind my back for months. The judge's expression darkened as she opened the folder. And that's when Barbara suddenly stood up and screamed that I had no right to keep her granddaughter from her real family. The courtroom went dead silent for like 3 seconds. Then the judge's gavel came down so hard I swear the whole room shook. "Mrs. Wilson, sit down immediately or I will have you removed from this courtroom," she said, her voice ice cold. Barbara's face turned red, but she sat down, her hands gripping the edge of the table so tight her knuckles went white. The judge looked down at her notes, then back up at Barbara. "What I've heard today is deeply disturbing," she said. "This child has been manipulated and coached to betray her own father. You've been playing psychological games with a 3-year-old, teaching her to call your daughter Mama when her real mother has passed away. This is not the behavior of someone who has this child's best interests at heart." Barbara tried to interrupt, opening her mouth to speak, but the judge held up her hand. "I'm not finished," she said firmly. "You've weaponized the court system to try and steal custody from a loving, capable parent. The evidence presented by the petitioner is laughable at best and malicious at worst. A house with toys on the floor is a home where a child lives and plays. A father who works from home while his child attends preschool is a father who's providing for his family. And hiring trusted family members to help with childcare is not neglect, it's smart parenting." My lawyer squeezed my shoulder. I could feel tears starting to form, but I kept my eyes on the judge. Sophie was playing with the buttons on my shirt, totally oblivious to what was happening around her. Furthermore, the judge continued, flipping through the folder, I have here documentation from the child's therapist, her pediatrician, and her preschool teachers. All of them paint a picture of a well-adjusted, healthy, happy child who is thriving in her father's care. There is absolutely no evidence of neglect or unfitness. She closed the folder and looked directly at Barbara again. What I do see evidence of, however, is a grandmother who has overstepped her bounds in the most egregious way possible. Barbara's lawyer tried to stand up, probably to object or something, but the judge wasn't having it. Sit down, counselor. I'm issuing my ruling. I held my breath. Sophie must have sensed my tension because she looked up at me with those big brown eyes that looked just like Jennifer's. Daddy, okay? She whispered. I nodded and kissed the top of her head. I am denying the petition for grandparent custody in its entirety, the judge said. Mr. Harrison retains full legal and physical custody of his daughter. Additionally, I am issuing a restraining order against Barbara Wilson. She is not to contact Mr. Harrison or the minor child, Sophie Harrison, for a period of no less than 2 years. She is not to come within 500 feet of their residence, Sophie's preschool, or any location where she knows them to be. Barbara shot up out of her chair. You can't do this, she screamed. That's my granddaughter. My daughter Jennifer would have wanted. Your daughter Jennifer designated Mr. Harrison as Sophie's sole guardian in her will, the judge interrupted coldly. She made her wishes very clear. You are the one disrespecting her memory by trying to undermine the choices she made for her own child. That's when Barbara completely lost it. She started yelling about how I was turning Sophie against her family, how I was keeping her from knowing her real heritage, how I was going to ruin Sophie's life. Amanda sat frozen in her seat, her face pale, while David had his head in his hands. Barbara's lawyer was frantically trying to calm her down, but she shoved him away. Security, the judge called out calmly. 2 court officers appeared from the side of the courtroom. Please escort Mrs. Wilson from the building. This isn't over, Barbara shrieked as the officers approached her. She pointed at me, her finger shaking. You're a horrible father. Sophie deserves better than you. You're going to destroy her just like you. She didn't get to finish that sentence because the officers took her by the arms and started walking her toward the exit. She kept screaming the whole way. I could hear her voice echoing down the hallway even after the courtroom doors closed. I'll fight this. I'll appeal. You can't keep me from my granddaughter. Jennifer would hate you for this. Sophie started crying. The noise, the tension, everything was too much for her. I picked her up and held her close, rocking her gently. It's okay, baby. Grandma's just upset. Everything's okay. The judge's expression softened when she looked at Sophie. Mr. Harrison, I want you to know that you're doing an excellent job with your daughter. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. She signed some papers and handed them to the clerk. The restraining order is effective immediately. If Mrs. Wilson attempts to contact you or your daughter, call the police right away. Thank you, Your Honor, I managed to say. My voice was shaky. I honestly felt like I might pass out from relief. Amanda finally stood up. She walked over to me, and I tensed, but she just looked at Sophie with tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know she was doing that. I swear I didn't know about the coaching. I just wanted to be a mom so badly, and she made it sound like you were struggling and that Sophie needed us, and her voice broke. I didn't know what to say to her. Part of me wanted to scream at her for going along with this insanity, but another part of me saw someone who'd been manipulated by Barbara just like Sophie had been. You need to talk to someone, I said quietly. A therapist or something, because this whole situation is messed up, and you went along with trying to take my daughter from me. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I know it was wrong. I'm sorry. Then she turned and left with David, who hadn't said a single word the entire time. My lawyer gathered up all our paperwork. Well, that went better than I expected, she said with a slight smile, though I didn't anticipate the screaming match at the end. Is the restraining order really enforceable? I asked. Like, she can't just show up at our house? If she does, you call 911 immediately. She'll be arrested for violating a court order. I'm serious. Don't let her talk to you. Don't open the door. Just call the police. She handed me a folder with copies of all the court documents. Keep these somewhere safe. And honestly, I'd recommend installing some security cameras at your place, just in case. We walked out of the courthouse together. Sophie had calmed down and was asking if we could get chicken nuggets for lunch. Normal kid stuff, like her whole future hadn't just been decided in that courtroom. I strapped her into her car seat, and she smiled up at me. Daddy, why was Grandma yelling? Grandma was upset because she wanted something she couldn't have, I said carefully. But everything's okay now. We're going to go get nuggets and then go home and watch a movie. Sound good? Can we watch Moana? We can watch Moana. I drove home in a daze. The adrenaline was wearing off, and I was starting to feel exhausted. My phone kept buzzing with texts from my sister asking how it went, from a few friends who knew about the court date, even from my boss checking in. I ignored all of them. I just wanted to get home, lock the door, and process everything that had just happened. When we got to the house, I noticed something immediately. Barbara's car wasn't there, thank God, but there was a package on the front porch. A big box, wrapped in pink paper with butterflies on it. My stomach sank. I told Sophie to wait in the car for a minute. I walked up to the porch and looked at the package. There was a card attached. I opened it with shaking hands. For my sweet Sophie, love always, Grandma Barbara and Aunt Amanda. The box had been dropped off that morning, probably before the court hearing. I didn't even want to know what was inside. I picked it up and carried it straight to the garage, shoving it on a high shelf where Sophie wouldn't see it. I'd deal with it later, maybe give it to my lawyer as evidence of Barbara trying to contact us. Sophie was getting impatient in the car. I went back and got her, carried her inside, and locked the door behind us. Then I locked the deadbolt too, and checked all the windows. I knew I was being paranoid, but I couldn't help it. We ate chicken nuggets on the couch and watched Moana. Sophie fell asleep halfway through, her head resting on my shoulder. I sat there, not moving, just holding my daughter and trying to process that this nightmare was finally over. The restraining order was in place. The judge had ruled in my favor. Sophie was safe, but something kept nagging at me. Barbara wasn't the type to just give up. That scene in the courtroom, the screaming, the threats, that was someone who'd lost control, sure, but it was also someone who genuinely believed she was in the right, and people like that don't just walk away. I gently moved Sophie so I could grab my laptop. I needed to do what my lawyer suggested and look into security cameras. But first, I wanted to check something. I logged into my email, and my heart sank. There were already 3 emails from Barbara's email address, all sent within the last hour. The subject lines were all variations of, "Please read this," and "About Sophie." I didn't open them. Instead, I forwarded them all to my lawyer and blocked Barbara's email address. Then I blocked her phone number, Amanda's number, and David's number too. I went through my social media and blocked all of them there as well. My phone rang. It was my sister, Jenna. I answered. "Oh, thank God," she said immediately. "I've been trying to reach you for an hour. How did it go? Are you okay? Is Sophie okay?" "We won," I said, and saying it out loud made it feel real for the first time. The judge denied their petition completely and issued a restraining order against Barbara. She can't contact us for 2 years. Jenna let out a whoop so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. I knew it. I knew that judge would see through their bullshit. Oh my God. I'm so happy. How's Sophie? She's okay. A little confused about why Grandma was yelling, but okay. We're just watching movies and decompressing. Good. You both deserve that. Hey, do you need me to come over? I can bring dinner later. No, we're good. I just want to have a quiet night with Sophie. I looked down at my daughter, still sleeping peacefully. But thanks, Jen, for everything. The statement you wrote for the court. It really helped. Of course, that's what family does. Real family anyway, not whatever the hell Barbara thinks family means. She paused. You should probably change your locks, you know, just in case she has a key to your place. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, I'll call a locksmith tomorrow. Want me to come over and help with that? I can take Sophie to the park while they're working so she doesn't get bored. That would be great, actually. After I hung up with Jenna, I did a sweep of the whole house. I checked every window lock, every door, the garage door, even the door to the crawl space in the basement that I never used. Everything was secure. Then I went to the garage and looked at that package again. I should have just thrown it away, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it carefully, half expecting something crazy. Inside was a photo album, a fancy one, leather-bound with Sophie's family, embossed on the cover in gold lettering. I flipped it open. My blood ran cold. The first few pages were normal photos of Sophie with Jennifer, me, Barbara, Amanda, the whole family at various gatherings and holidays. But then it got weird. There were photos of just Sophie and Amanda, which was fine, they'd spent time together. But someone had taken a marker and drawn hearts around them, written Mommy and Sophie in the margins. I kept flipping. The photos got progressively more disturbing. There were pictures I'd never seen before. Barbara must have taken them on her phone during visits. Sophie and Amanda baking cookies, reading books, playing in what looked like Amanda and David's backyard. All of them labeled with things like Sophie's new room, future family, practice makes perfect. The last page made me feel sick. It was a professional family photo, the kind you get taken at one of those studios in the mall. Amanda, David, and Sophie, all dressed up and smiling. Sophie was in the middle, holding both their hands. Someone had photoshopped Jennifer's face onto Amanda's body in one copy of the photo, then crossed out Jennifer's face and written, Amanda, now, next to it. This wasn't just a custody grab. This was months, maybe even a year or more, of Barbara planning to replace me in Sophie's life. The coaching, the photos, the games where Sophie practiced calling Amanda Mama, all of it was part of a long-term strategy. I took photos of every single page with my phone and sent them to my lawyer. Then I put the album back in the box and shoved it back on the shelf. Evidence. All of it was evidence. My phone buzzed. My lawyer had responded, "Holy shit. Keep this. Do not throw it away. This shows premeditation and planning. If she violates the restraining order, this will help us get it extended or made permanent." That night, after Sophie went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times I'd let Barbara take Sophie for sleepovers, all the times I'd been grateful for the help, completely unaware that she was systematically trying to turn my daughter against me. How many nights had Sophie gone to bed at Barbara's house? being told that Amanda was going to be her new mommy? How many times had she been confused, wondering why Daddy wasn't there, being fed lies about me not wanting her or not being able to take care of her? The betrayal hurt worse than anything Barbara had said in court. She'd used my grief, my struggles as a widowed father, my trust in her as Jennifer's mother, all of it against me. And she'd involved Sophie, manipulated an innocent 3-year-old who'd already lost her mother. I got up and checked on Sophie. She was sleeping soundly, her stuffed bunny tucked under her arm, her nightlight casting soft shadows on the walls. She looked so peaceful, so safe. I stood there in her doorway for a long time, just watching her breathe. Tomorrow I'd call the locksmith. I'd install the security cameras. I'd forward more evidence to my lawyer. But tonight, I just needed to be grateful that she was here, in her own bed, in her own home, where she belonged. The next morning, everything felt surreal, like the court hearing had been some kind of fever dream. Sophie woke up asking for pancakes, completely back to her normal self. She didn't mention Barbara or the courtroom or any of it. Kids are resilient like that, I guess. They just move on. Jenna showed up around 10 with a locksmith she knew from work. "This guy's reliable," she told me. "Did security for my office building. He'll make sure everything's tight." The locksmith, an older guy named Frank, walked around the house examining all the entry points. "How many keys are out there?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "My mother-in-law might have one. Maybe my sister-in-law too." Frank nodded. "We'll change everything. Deadbolts, door handles, the works. I'll also recommend some additional locks for the windows and a chain lock for the front door. You can never be too careful." While Frank was working, Jenna took Sophie to the park like she'd promised. I used the time to go through more of my emails and social media. Barbara had created a new email address and sent me 4 more messages. I didn't read them, just forwarded them to my lawyer and blocked the new address. Then I saw I had a friend request on Facebook from an account with no profile picture and a name I didn't recognize, Helen Jennings. I almost ignored it, but something made me check the account. It had been created that morning and had only one friend, Barbara Wilson. I blocked it immediately. She was trying to get around the blocks I'd put in place. I made all my social media accounts private, changed my settings so only friends could message me, and blocked anyone who was friends with Barbara. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, another call from a different unknown number. Then another. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb. When Frank finished with the locks, he handed me a whole new set of keys. Keep one for yourself, one for your sister, and keep the spare hidden somewhere safe. Don't give copies to anyone unless you absolutely trust them. "What about a safe?" I asked. "Like for important documents? You should get one. Bolt it to the floor or wall studs. Keep all your legal paperwork, birth certificates, insurance documents, all that stuff locked up." He looked at me seriously. "You're dealing with someone who's unstable, right? The more barriers you put up, the harder it is for them to cause problems." After Frank left, I drove to a hardware store and bought a heavy-duty safe, security cameras for the front and back doors, and extra motion sensor lights. I spent the rest of the afternoon installing everything. By the time Jenna brought Sophie back, the house was basically a fortress. "Daddy, look what Aunt Jenna got me!" Sophie ran in holding a new coloring book and a pack of crayons. She was beaming. "That's great, sweetie. Why don't you go color at the table while I talk to Aunt Jenna for a minute?" Once Sophie was occupied, Jenna pulled me aside. "You okay? You look stressed." I showed her the album I'd found in the package. Her face went through about 5 different emotions as she flipped through the pages. "This is insane," she finally said. "Like, clinically insane. She photoshopped herself out and put Amanda in? That's not just manipulation. That's delusional." "I know. I sent it all to my lawyer." "Good. Have you thought about maybe taking Sophie to her therapist this week? Just to check in, make sure she's processing everything okay?" "Yeah, I already scheduled an appointment for Thursday." I ran my hands through my hair. I just keep thinking about what else Barbara might have planned. Like, this album shows she's been working on this for months, maybe longer. What if she doesn't stop? That's why you got the restraining order. If she comes near you or Sophie, she goes to jail. Simple as that. But it wasn't simple. People like Barbara didn't think they were wrong. In her mind, she was saving Sophie from me. The restraining order wasn't going to change that belief. That night, after Sophie was in bed, I finally sat down and looked at the paperwork from court. The restraining order was clear. No contact, direct or indirect, by any means. That included phone calls, emails, texts, letters, showing up in person, having someone else contact me on her behalf. All of it was prohibited. I put the paperwork in the new safe along with Sophie's birth certificate, Jennifer's death certificate, our insurance documents, and the memory album. Then I locked it and tested the lock 3 times to make sure it worked. I was exhausted, but I still couldn't sleep. Every little sound made me jump. A car driving past, the house settling, the wind rattling a window, everything sounded like someone trying to get in. I ended up on the couch with the TV on low, dozing fitfully until sunrise. Wednesday morning, my phone started blowing up again, but this time it was the family group chat. Jennifer's dad, Michael, had sent a message. Family meeting at my house tonight at 7 p.m. Everyone needs to be there. We need to talk about what happened in court. I stared at the message. The group chat included Barbara. She'd see this. She'd probably show up. I typed out a response. I can't come if Barbara is going to be there. There's a restraining order. Michael responded immediately. She won't be there. I specifically told her not to come. This meeting is about her, not with her. Jennifer's aunt, Patricia, chimed in. We all need to talk about this. What she did was unacceptable. Other family members started agreeing. Jennifer's cousins, her uncle, even Amanda sent a message. I'll be there. We need to clear the air about everything. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be in a room full of Jennifer's family talking about how her mother had tried to steal my daughter. But I also knew that if I didn't go, the rumor mill would start. Barbara would twist the story, make herself look like the victim, and I'd have a whole new set of problems. I'll be there, I finally typed. But I'm bringing Jenna with me, and if Barbara shows up, I'm leaving immediately and calling the police. Michael's response. Understood. See you at 7. I called Jenna and explained the situation. Yeah, I'll come, she said. Someone needs to have your back in that room. Plus, I've been wanting to give some of those people a piece of my mind for years. The rest of the day dragged on. Sophie went to preschool like normal, completely unaware of the drama swirling around her. I worked from home, barely able to concentrate. Every time I heard a car slow down outside, I checked the security camera feed on my phone. Around 2 p.m., a car pulled up in front of the house. A woman got out. I didn't recognize her at first and walked up to my door. She rang the doorbell. I checked the camera and my blood ran cold. It was one of Barbara's neighbors, a woman named Diane who I'd met a few times at family gatherings. I didn't answer the door. She rang the bell again, then knocked. Hello? I know you're home. Your car is in the driveway. More knocking. I just want to talk for a minute. Barbara asked me to. I called 911. 911? What's your emergency? Someone is at my door violating a restraining order. Well, not the person the order is against, but someone acting on their behalf. The dispatcher took my information and said an officer would be there shortly. Diane kept knocking, calling my name, saying Barbara just wanted to explain her side of things. I recorded everything on my phone through the camera feed. A police car pulled up about 5 minutes later. The officer talked to Diane, who immediately started crying and saying she was just trying to help. She didn't know there was a restraining order. Barbara just seemed so upset and wanted to talk to me. The officer came to my door. I opened it with the chain lock still on. Mr. Harrison, I'm Officer Mendez. Can you show me the restraining order? I had a copy ready. I handed it through the gap in the door. Officer Mendez read it over, then nodded. This is pretty clear. Any contact, direct or indirect. I'm going to let Miss Barker go with a warning, but I'll file a report about this incident. If anyone else tries to contact you on Mrs. Wilson's behalf, call us immediately. Thank you. After they left, I checked my security footage. Sure enough, Diane had arrived in a car that was still parked down the street. I zoomed in on the camera feed and saw Barbara sitting in the passenger seat. I sent the video to my lawyer with a message. Barbara is already violating the restraining order by having her friend try to contact me. She was in the car the whole time, watching. My lawyer called me within minutes. This is good, she said. Not good that it's happening, but good that we have documentation. I'm going to file this with the court. If she keeps this up, we can get her held in contempt. Can't we get her arrested now? She was right there in the car. Technically, she didn't make direct contact with you. But this pattern of behavior, using third parties to circumvent the order, that's something we can use. Keep documenting everything. By the time I picked up Sophie from preschool, I was a bundle of nerves. She chattered away about her day, something about finger painting and making a friend named Olivia, and I tried my best to focus on her instead of the mess with Barbara. Jenna met us at my house at 6:30. You ready for this? She asked. Not even a little bit. We dropped Sophie off at Jenna's friend's house, someone who had nothing to do with Jennifer's family and wouldn't be dragged into any of this drama. Then we drove to Michael's house. The driveway was packed with cars. My stomach churned. I thought it would be a small gathering, maybe Jennifer's parents and her siblings, but this looked like a full family reunion. Michael answered the door. He looked older than I remembered, more tired. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I know this isn't easy. The living room was full of Jennifer's family. Her uncle Robert, her aunt Patricia, her cousins, Amanda and David, even some people I only vaguely recognized from the wedding. Everyone fell silent when I walked in. Michael gestured to the couch. Have a seat. Can I get you anything to drink? I'm fine. Jenna sat next to me, her presence a comforting anchor in the sea of uncomfortable faces. Michael stood in the center of the room and cleared his throat. I called this meeting because we need to address what happened in court on Monday, he began. What Barbara did was unacceptable, and I want everyone in this family to understand that what happened does not represent our values or how we treat family. Patricia spoke up. We had no idea she was planning this. When she told us she was filing for custody, she made it sound like you were falling apart, like Sophie was being neglected. I never neglected Sophie, I said firmly. We know that now, Robert added. But Barbara was very convincing. She showed us photos of your house looking messy, told us stories about Sophie being left alone, not getting proper meals. We should have questioned it, but he trailed off. But you believed her because she's family, I finished. Amanda was crying again. She'd been crying since I walked in. I'm so sorry, she said for what felt like the 100th time. I didn't know about the coaching. I didn't know she was making Sophie call me Mama. She told me you were overwhelmed, that you were thinking about giving up custody anyway, that Sophie needed a mother figure. Did you ever think to ask me directly? I asked. Instead of just going along with a plan to take my daughter? I should have. I know I should have. I was just so desperate to be a mom. And Barbara made it sound so reasonable, like I'd be helping everyone. David finally spoke up. I tried to tell her it was wrong, he said quietly. I told Amanda we should talk to you first. Maybe offer to help out more instead of trying to take Sophie. But Barbara had her convinced that you'd say no, that you were too proud to accept help. I would have accepted help, I said. I have accepted help. From Jenna, from my friends, from Sophie's therapist. But there's a difference between accepting help and giving up my daughter. Michael sat down heavily in his recliner. I need to tell you something, he said, looking at me directly. Something I should have told you years ago. This isn't the first time Barbara has done something like this. The room went even quieter. Everyone was staring at Michael. When Jennifer was 12, Barbara and I went through a divorce, he continued. It was messy. We both made mistakes, said things we shouldn't have. But during the custody battle, Barbara tried to coach Jennifer to lie about me. She told Jennifer to tell the judge that I hit her, that I drank too much, that she was scared of me. None of it was true. My jaw dropped. Jennifer never told me that. She made me promise not to tell anyone, said she'd forgiven her mother and wanted to move past it. And I did too, eventually. I thought Barbara had changed, that she'd learned from what happened. But clearly, I was wrong. He rubbed his eyes. I should have said something when she first started talking about the custody case. I should have warned you. Patricia looked shocked. She did what? To Jennifer? Jennifer stood up in court and told the truth, Michael said. She told the judge that her mother had been telling her to lie. The judge was furious. Barbara lost custody completely for 2 years. She only got visitation rights back when Jennifer turned 16 and asked for them. So that's where Barbara learned how to manipulate the system. She'd done it before, failed, but apparently decided to try again with Sophie. Except this time, I had better lawyers and a judge who saw through the bullshit. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? I asked. When Barbara first started talking about the custody case. Because we didn't know? Patricia said. Michael, you never told any of us about this. Barbara made me promise, Michael said. Part of the custody agreement was that neither of us would talk about what happened in court. I kept that promise, even after Jennifer died. But I can't keep it anymore, not when she's doing the same thing to my granddaughter. Amanda was sobbing now. David had his arm around her, but he looked angry. My wife has been in therapy for years because she can't have kids, he said. Barbara knew that. She weaponized it, used it to manipulate Amanda into going along with this insane plan. And I went along with it because I wanted Amanda to be happy. We both screwed up. You think? Jenna said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You tried to steal a child from her father. Screwed up is a massive understatement. I know, David said. I know it was wrong. We both know it was wrong. We've been talking about therapy, both individual and couples counseling. This whole thing made us realize we need help. Good, I said. You do need help, both of you. Robert cleared his throat. So what happens now? What do you need from us? I looked around the room. These people were Sophie's family, her connection to Jennifer. Part of me wanted to cut them all out, protect Sophie from anyone associated with Barbara. But another part of me knew that Sophie needed her grandpa Michael, her uncle Robert, her cousins. She needed to know where she came from. I need you all to respect the restraining order, I said. That means no one contacts me on Barbara's behalf. No one passes messages from her. No one tries to guilt-trip me into dropping it or forgiving her. If Barbara asks you to do anything related to Sophie or me, you say no. Everyone nodded. And I need you all to understand that my relationship with Sophie is not up for debate. I'm her father. I'm doing a good job. If you disagree with my parenting choices, you can keep it to yourself or talk to me about it like adults. But the next person who tries to undermine me or question my fitness as a parent gets cut out of our lives. I don't care who you are. More nodding. Finally, I need space. I don't know when I'll be ready for family gatherings again or holidays or any of that. But when I am ready, I'll let you know. Until then, please respect my boundaries. Michael stood up and walked over to me. For a moment, I thought he might try to hug me, but instead he held out his hand. You have my word, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Barbara's history. I'm sorry I didn't see what she was planning, and I'm so sorry for what she put you and Sophie through. I shook his hand. Thank you. Patricia spoke up. There's one more thing we need to tell you. Barbara has been telling people that you're keeping Sophie from her illegally, that the restraining order was issued because you lied in court. She's trying to turn the family against you. Let her, I said. Anyone who believes her over what actually happened in court isn't someone I need in my life anyway. Jenna squeezed my shoulder. That's the spirit. We left shortly after that. The drive home was quiet. I was emotionally drained, barely able to process everything that had been said. You did good in there, Jenna said finally. Setting boundaries, standing up for yourself. Jennifer would be proud. I hope so. We picked up Sophie from Jenna's friend's house. She'd had a great time playing with their daughter and was talking a mile a minute about the toys they had and the snacks they ate. Normal kid stuff. Exactly what she should be focused on. That night, after Sophie was asleep, I pulled out the memory album again and looked through it more carefully. There were photos in there I'd never seen before, which meant Barbara had been documenting things she thought would support her case for months, maybe even a year. There was one photo near the end that made me pause. It was from Jennifer's funeral. Barbara had her arm around Sophie, who was crying. I remembered that moment. I'd stepped away for just a minute to talk to the funeral director about something, and when I came back, Barbara was holding Sophie, whispering in her ear. I'd thought she was comforting her granddaughter. Now I wondered if she was already starting the manipulation even then. I closed the album and put it back in the safe. I couldn't keep dwelling on what Barbara had done. I needed to focus on moving forward, on rebuilding the sense of safety and normalcy that she'd shattered. Over the next few days, things were relatively quiet. No more surprise visitors, no more calls from unknown numbers. I started to think that maybe Barbara had actually gotten the message. I was wrong. On Friday afternoon, Sophie's preschool called. Mr. Harrison, this is Director Chen. We had an incident today that I need to tell you about. My heart sank. What happened? Is Sophie okay? Sophie is fine, but your mother-in-law attempted to pick her up from school this afternoon. What? She's on the restraining order. She's not even on the approved pickup list. I know. When she arrived, we immediately informed her that she wasn't authorized to pick up Sophie. She became very agitated and tried to push past our front desk staff. We had to lock the door to the classrooms and call the police. Oh my God. Is Sophie, did she see any of this? No. The children were all in the back playground. They didn't see or hear anything. Mrs. Wilson was escorted off the property by the police. They took a statement from our staff and filed a report. I thanked Director Chen and immediately called my lawyer. She was furious. This is a clear violation of the restraining order. I'm filing a contempt motion first thing Monday morning. With the police report from the school, we have solid evidence. Next, I called Officer Mendez, who'd responded to the Diane incident. He confirmed that Barbara had been arrested for violating the restraining order and was currently being held pending a bail hearing. How long will they keep her? I asked. Depends on the judge. Could be a few hours, could be overnight. But this is on her record now. If she violates again, the consequences will be more severe. When I picked up Sophie from school, Director Chen pulled me aside. We've updated all our security protocols, she said. No one will be allowed past the front desk unless they're on the approved list. And we've added Barbara Wilson to our internal do not allow list. I'm so sorry this happened. It's not your fault. Thank you for protecting Sophie. That night, I had to explain to Sophie why she couldn't see Grandma Barbara anymore. It was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. Grandma made some bad choices, I told her gently. And when people make bad choices, they have to face consequences. One of those consequences is that she can't visit us for a while. Is Grandma in trouble? Sophie asked, her little face scrunched up in confusion. Yes, sweetie, but it's not your fault. And it's not because of anything you did. Grandma just needs to learn that she can't always get what she wants, and she can't break the rules. Like when I took extra cookies and you said no more cookies for a week? Exactly like that. Except Grandma's timeout is much longer. Sophie seemed to accept this explanation. Kids are amazingly adaptable. Within 5 minutes, she'd moved on to asking if we could have mac and cheese for dinner. But I couldn't move on that easily. Barbara showing up at the preschool was a major escalation. She wasn't just trying to contact me anymore. She was actively attempting to get to Sophie. That meant she was either completely delusional or genuinely didn't care about the legal consequences of her actions. I spent the weekend reinforcing everything. I talked to the preschool again, made sure all the staff knew what Barbara looked like. I talked to my sister, made sure she understood not to let Sophie out of her sight when she was babysitting. I even talked to my neighbors, showed them a photo of Barbara, asked them to call me if they saw her around the house. On Monday morning, my lawyer called with an update. Barbara's bail hearing was this morning. The judge set bail at $5,000 and added additional conditions. She has to wear an ankle monitor, and she's not allowed within 1,000 feet of you, Sophie, or the preschool. Did she make bail? Yes, Michael paid it. I felt a flash of anger. Jennifer's father had seemed so supportive at the family meeting, but then he'd turned around and bailed Barbara out? My lawyer must have sensed my reaction. He called me this morning, she said. He wanted me to tell you that he didn't want his ex-wife sitting in jail, but he made it clear to her that he's not on her side. He also said he's documenting every conversation he has with her in case we need it for court. I didn't know how to feel about that. Part of me appreciated that Michael was trying to help, but another part of me thought Barbara deserved to sit in jail and think about what she'd done. The contempt hearing was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, I had to live with the knowledge that Barbara was out there, still convinced she was doing the right thing, still plotting God knows what. I went through the motions: work, picking up Sophie, making meals, reading bedtime stories, but I was constantly on edge, checking the security cameras, jumping at every noise. On Wednesday, I got a package in the mail, no return address. I almost didn't open it, afraid of what might be inside, but then I saw it was postmarked from 2 weeks ago, before the court hearing. Inside was a letter from Barbara. It must have been mailed before everything went down. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Dear son," it began. I nearly laughed at the absurdity of her calling me that. "I'm writing this to you before our court date, because I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I know you think I'm trying to hurt you, but that's not true. I'm trying to save Sophie. Jennifer was my world. When she died, a part of me died too, but I still had Sophie, and I saw so much of my daughter in her. Every time I looked at Sophie, I saw Jennifer's eyes, her smile, her spirit. But then I started noticing things. Sophie was sad. She was confused. She would cry for her mommy, and you couldn't comfort her the way a mother could. I don't blame you for that. You're a man, and there are some things men just can't understand about raising a little girl. Amanda can give Sophie the life she deserves. A real home with 2 parents. A mother who can teach her how to be a woman. A father figure who isn't drowning in grief. You've done the best you can, and no one faults you for that. But it's time to let go and do what's best for Sophie, not what's easiest for your ego. I'm not trying to take Sophie away from you forever. You'd still be in her life, but she needs stability, and you're not providing that. The sooner you accept this, the better it will be for everyone. I hope we can resolve this amicably, but if not, I'm prepared to fight for my granddaughter in court. A judge will see what I see. A struggling single father who's in over his head. With love and concern, Barbara." I read the letter 3 times, and each time I got angrier. The condescension, the assumption that I couldn't raise my own daughter because I was a man, the complete lack of awareness about how manipulative and controlling she was being, it was infuriating. I scanned the letter and sent it to my lawyer. "More evidence," I wrote. Her response: "She really doesn't get it, does she?" No, she really didn't. The contempt hearing came faster than I expected. I sat in the same courtroom where I'd won custody, except this time Barbara was in handcuffs. She'd violated the terms of her bail by going within 500 feet of my house. One of the neighbors had seen her driving past slowly and called the police. The judge was not pleased. "Mrs. Wilson, you've been before this court 3 times in 2 weeks. Each time, you've been reminded of the terms of the restraining order. Each time, you've violated them. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Barbara stood up. She looked different than she had at the custody hearing. Older, more tired. "Your Honor, I'm sorry. I just wanted to see my granddaughter. I didn't mean any harm." "Intent is irrelevant when you're violating a court order," the judge said coldly. "You attempted to pick up a child from school. You sent third parties to contact Mr. Harrison, and you've been surveilling his home. These are not the actions of someone who didn't mean any harm. These are the actions of someone who believes the rules don't apply to them." Barbara's lawyer tried to argue that his client was struggling with mental health issues and should be given leniency, but the judge shut that down immediately. If Mrs. Wilson is struggling with mental health issues, then she needs to be in treatment, not stalking her son-in-law and granddaughter. I'm finding her in contempt of court. She will serve 30 days in county jail, and upon release, the restraining order will be extended to 5 years. Barbara started crying, begging the judge to reconsider, but it was over. The bailiffs led her out of the courtroom, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. My lawyer turned to me. "That's as good as we could have hoped for. 30 days will give her time to cool off, and 5 years gives you and Sophie plenty of breathing room." I nodded, but I couldn't quite believe it was real. After weeks of stress and fear and constant vigilance, Barbara was actually facing consequences. Outside the courtroom, Michael was waiting. "Can we talk?" he asked. I didn't really want to, but I nodded. We walked to a bench near the courthouse entrance. "I'm sorry," Michael said simply, "for all of this. For Barbara, for not seeing it coming, for not protecting you and Sophie the way I should have. You couldn't have known," I said, and I mostly meant it. I should have. I was married to that woman for 15 years. I know how she operates, how she twists things to fit her narrative. I wanted to believe she'd changed. He sighed heavily. "For what it's worth, I've been documenting everything she said to me since the court hearing. Every phone call, every text, every email. It's all saved in case you need it. Thank you. I've also updated my will. Everything I was going to leave to Barbara is now going into a trust for Sophie. She won't see a dime from me." I didn't know what to say to that. It felt extreme, but also somehow appropriate given everything that had happened. Michael stood up. "Take care of my granddaughter. That's all I ask. Let me know if you need anything." After he left, I sat on that bench for a while, just processing everything. Barbara was going to jail. The restraining order was extended to 5 years. My daughter was safe. I pulled out my phone and texted Jenna. It's over. She's going to jail for 30 days and the restraining order is extended to 5 years. Jenna's response was immediate. Fuck yes. I'll bring wine and Chinese food tonight. We're celebrating. That evening, after Sophie was in bed, Jenna came over with enough food for a small army. We sat on the floor of my living room, eating lo mein straight from the containers and drinking cheap wine. You know what the craziest part of all this is? I said. She genuinely believed she was doing the right thing. Like, in her mind, she was saving Sophie from me. That's what makes people like her so dangerous, Jenna said. They don't think they're the bad guy. They think everyone else is wrong. We talked until past midnight, going over everything that had happened, all the signs I'd missed, all the ways Barbara had manipulated the situation. It was cathartic, getting it all out. Over the next few weeks, life slowly started to feel normal again. I took down some of the security cameras, though I kept the ones at the front and back doors. I stopped jumping every time a car drove past. Sophie went to preschool, played with her friends, asked for the same bedtime story every night like always. The memory album stayed locked in the safe. I thought about throwing it away a dozen times, but my lawyer said to keep it as evidence in case Barbara tried anything when she got out of jail. Michael started coming around occasionally, always calling first to make sure it was okay. He'd take Sophie to the park or out for ice cream, always bringing her back on time, always respectful of my boundaries. Slowly, carefully, we were building a relationship that worked for everyone. Amanda sent me a letter apologizing again and letting me know she and David were in counseling. She said she understood if I never wanted to see her again, but she hoped someday I might forgive her. I didn't write back. I wasn't ready for that yet, and I didn't know if I ever would be. The rest of Jennifer's family seemed to get the message. They respected my space, sent the occasional text checking in, but didn't push for more than I was willing to give. It was the best I could hope for. Sophie's therapist said she was doing remarkably well considering everything that had happened. She'd stopped asking about Grandma Barbara after the first few weeks and seemed content with our little family unit of just the two of us, with Aunt Jenna and Grandpa Michael on the periphery. When Barbara got out of jail after serving her 30 days, I was nervous all over again, but the ankle monitor and the extended restraining order seemed to be working. There were no more mysterious packages, no more drive-bys, no more attempts to contact us through third parties. Michael told me she'd moved to an apartment across town and was supposedly seeing a therapist. Whether that was true or just something she told him to make herself look better, I didn't know and honestly didn't care. The important thing was that Sophie was happy and safe. She was thriving in preschool, making friends, laughing more. The shadow that had been hanging over us was finally lifting. One night, about 6 months after the initial court hearing, Sophie asked me about her mom. It wasn't the first time. She asked about Jennifer regularly, but this time felt different. Do you think Mommy would be proud of me? She asked, clutching her stuffed bunny. I know she would be, I said, my voice thick with emotion. She would be so proud of the brave, kind, smart little girl you're becoming. Do you think she can see us? From heaven? I like to think so. Yeah. Sophie thought about this for a moment, then smiled. Then she knows I'm okay with just you and me, right? We're a good team. The best team, I agreed, kissing her forehead. After she fell asleep, I went to the safe and took out the memory album one more time. I flipped through the pages, looking at all of Barbara's meticulous planning, all her delusions about creating a better family for Sophie. Then I went outside and threw the whole thing in the trash. I didn't need it anymore. Barbara wasn't a threat to us anymore, and I didn't need to hold on to evidence of her manipulation. It was time to let go. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing. Multiple texts in the family group chat. Michael had sent a message to everyone. Barbara and I have decided to make our divorce official. It's been years since we separated, and it's time to make it legal. Thank you all for your support. Good for him, I thought. He deserved to fully cut ties with someone who'd caused so much damage. But then, about an hour later, my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera and saw Amanda standing on my porch. She was alone, looking nervous. I almost didn't open the door, but something made me change my mind. I opened it with the chain lock still on. What do you want? I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, she said quickly, but I need to tell you something. About Barbara. She's your mother-in-law, not mine. I don't want to hear about her. Please, just give me 2 minutes. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Amanda came inside, wringing her hands nervously. Barbara's been calling me, she said. A lot. At first, I was ignoring her, but yesterday she left a voicemail that really scared me. What did she say? Amanda pulled out her phone and played the message on speaker. Barbara's voice filled my living room, shrill and desperate. Amanda, honey, I need you to listen to me. I made a mistake trying to go through the courts. There are other ways to get Sophie where she belongs. I've been doing research, and I found someone who can help us. Someone who specializes in relocating children to better homes. It's completely safe, completely legal. Well, mostly legal. The point is, Sophie needs you, and I'm going to make sure you get her one way or another. Call me back so we can discuss the details. My blood ran cold. Did you call the police? Yes, immediately. They told me to save the message and not respond to her. But I thought you should know. This sounds like she's planning to. I don't know what, but it sounds bad. I called my lawyer right away, played her the message. She was silent for a long moment after it ended. This is a direct threat, she finally said. I'm forwarding this to the police and to the court. This is a violation of her bail conditions and probably grounds for additional charges. Within hours, Barbara was back in custody. The voicemail, combined with evidence that she'd been researching child abduction services online, which police found when they searched her apartment, was enough to charge her with conspiracy to kidnap. The trial was set for 3 months later. I had to testify, explaining the entire timeline of Barbara's behavior. The memory album, which I'd thought I was done with, was entered into evidence after I fished it out of the trash and gave it to my lawyer. Barbara's defense was that she never actually intended to go through with anything, that she was just venting her frustration in the voicemail and the research was hypothetical. But the prosecution had too much evidence. The coaching of Sophie, the attempted pickup from school, the voicemail, the internet searches, it all painted a picture of someone who was willing to break the law to get what she wanted. The jury took less than 4 hours to return a verdict, guilty on all counts. Barbara was sentenced to 3 years in prison. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt tired. Tired of the drama, tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of explaining to Sophie why Grandma wasn't around anymore. After the sentencing, Michael approached me outside the courthouse. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past few months. I'm sorry, he said again. I know I keep saying that, but I don't know what else to say. You don't need to apologize for her, I told him. She made her choices. I know, but I enabled her for years. I saw the warning signs when we were married, and I ignored them because it was easier than dealing with them. And now my granddaughter has to grow up knowing her grandmother is in prison. Sophie is going to be fine, I said firmly. She's got me. She's got Aunt Jenna. She's got you when I decide we're ready for that. She doesn't need Barbara. Michael nodded slowly. Can I still see her sometimes? I know I don't deserve it, but you're not Barbara, I interrupted. You didn't do what she did. Yeah, you can still see Sophie, but I need you to understand that if you ever do anything that makes me question your judgment or your respect for my boundaries, you're done. No second chances. I understand. Thank you. Life finally, truly, settled down after that. Barbara was in prison, the restraining order was ironclad, and everyone in Jennifer's family understood that I was not to be messed with when it came to Sophie. Sophie turned 4, then 5. She stopped asking about Barbara altogether. To her, Grandma Barbara was just someone who used to be around and wasn't anymore, like the babysitter we'd had for a few months or the neighbors who moved away. I dated occasionally, though nothing serious. Mostly I focused on Sophie and my work and building a life that felt stable and secure. Then, one day, about 2 years after Barbara went to prison, I got a call from Michael. Barbara had been released early for good behavior and wanted to apologize. Absolutely not, I said immediately. I figured you'd say that. I just wanted to give you a heads up that she's out. The restraining order is still in effect, so she can't contact you, but I thought you should know. Is she planning to violate it? She says no. She says she's changed. That prison gave her time to reflect, and she realizes now that what she did was wrong. I don't care if she's had a religious awakening and become Mother Teresa. She's never seeing Sophie again. I understand. About a week later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Barbara, postmarked from her new address in a different state. Dear son-in-law, it began. I'm writing this letter knowing you probably won't read it, but I need to try. I need you to know that I understand now how wrong I was. Prison gave me a lot of time to think about my actions and their consequences. I was so consumed by grief over losing Jennifer that I couldn't see straight. I projected all my pain and anger onto you, convinced myself that you were the problem when really, I was the one who couldn't accept that my daughter was gone. Sophie deserved better than what I put her through. You deserved better too. I was selfish and delusional, and I hurt the people I claimed to love. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm not asking to see Sophie. I know I lost that right when I tried to take her from you. I'm just asking that someday, if Sophie ever asks about me, you tell her the truth. Tell her that her grandmother loved her but made terrible mistakes. Tell her that loving someone doesn't mean you're entitled to control their life. And tell her that I'm sorry. Sincerely, Barbara. I read the letter twice, then put it in the safe with all the other documents from the custody battle. Maybe someday when Sophie was older and asked about her grandmother, I'd show it to her. Or maybe I wouldn't. I hadn't decided yet. For now, though, I was done with Barbara. Done with her manipulation, her apologies, her attempts to rewrite history. Sophie and I had a good life, and I wasn't going to let Barbara's shadow fall over it anymore. I took Sophie to the park that afternoon. She ran straight to the swings, her favorite, and I pushed her higher and higher as she squealed with joy. Daddy, look how high I'm going, she shouted. I see. You're almost touching the sky." And in that moment, watching my daughter laugh and play in the sunshine, I realized that we'd made it. Despite everything Barbara had tried to do, despite all the court battles and drama and fear, we'd come out the other side intact. Sophie was happy. I was happy. We were a family. And that was all that mattered. About a year later, I was cleaning out the garage when I came across a box of Jennifer's things that I'd never gone through. Photo albums, journals, keepsakes from her childhood. I'd been avoiding it, not ready to face those memories. But now, with some distance from all the drama with Barbara, I felt ready. I sat on the garage floor and opened the first photo album. Pictures of Jennifer as a baby, a toddler, a little girl. She looked so much like Sophie, it made my heart ache. Then I found a journal from when Jennifer was a teenager. I almost didn't read it. It felt like an invasion of privacy, even though she was gone. But something made me open it. The entries were typical teenage stuff at first. Complaints about school, crushes on boys, fights with friends. But then I found an entry from when she was 15, and my blood ran cold. Mom tried to coach me again today. She wanted me to tell Dad that I wanted to live with her full time. She said Dad doesn't understand me like she does, that he's too strict, that I'd be happier with her. But I don't want to live with her full time. I love Dad. He's never been anything but supportive and kind to me. I told Mom I wouldn't do it, and she got so angry. She said I was being selfish, that I was choosing Dad over her. She said if I really loved her, I'd help her win the custody case. I don't understand why she can't just be happy with the way things are. Why does she always have to control everything? Sometimes I feel like I'm not her daughter. I'm just a pawn in whatever game she's playing with Dad. I read entry after entry, each one detailing Barbara's attempts to manipulate Jennifer, to turn her against Michael, to use her as a weapon in their divorce. There was one entry from when Jennifer was 17 that particularly stood out. I confronted Mom today about all the coaching and manipulation. I told her that I knew what she was doing, and I wasn't going to let her use me anymore. She cried and said she was just trying to protect me, but I don't believe that. I think she's trying to protect herself, her ego, her need to be right. I told her that when I grow up and have kids of my own, I'm never going to put them in the middle like this. I'm never going to use them as pawns. I'm going to let them have relationships with both parents without guilt or manipulation. She didn't like that. She said I'd understand when I'm a mother myself, but I won't. I'll never understand how you can claim to love your child while treating them this way. Tears were streaming down my face as I read. Jennifer had seen through Barbara's manipulation even as a teenager. She'd promised herself she wouldn't repeat her mother's mistakes, and she hadn't. In the short time Jennifer and I had together before cancer took her, she'd been an amazing mother to Sophie. Patient, loving, present. Never manipulative, never controlling. I thought about the will Jennifer had written right before she died, the one that left me as Sophie's sole guardian. At the time, I'd thought it was just the logical choice. I was her husband, Sophie's father. But now I wondered if Jennifer had known, even then, that Barbara might try something like this someday. Maybe that's why she'd been so specific in her will, why she'd included language about not wanting Sophie raised by anyone else, why she'd made her wishes so crystal clear. Maybe she'd been protecting our daughter from her own mother, even from beyond the grave. I closed the journal and put it back in the box. Someday, when Sophie was older, I'd give her these journals. She deserved to know her mother, the real Jennifer. Not just the sanitized memories I shared with her, but I'd also make sure she understood that Jennifer had broken the cycle of manipulation and control that Barbara had tried to perpetuate. That Jennifer had chosen to be different, to be better. And I'd make damn sure that Sophie grew up knowing she was loved unconditionally, without manipulation, without hidden agendas, without someone trying to use her as a pawn in their games. That was my promise to Jennifer, and to Sophie, and to myself. A few months later, Sophie started kindergarten. On the first day, she bounded out of the car with her new backpack, so excited she could barely stand still. "Daddy, do you think I'll make new friends?" "I know you will, sweetheart. You're great at making friends. Will you pick me up after school? I'll be right here waiting for you." She hugged me tight, then ran toward the school entrance where her teacher was greeting students. She turned back once, waved enthusiastically, then disappeared inside. I sat in my car for a moment, watching the door she'd gone through. My little girl was growing up, starting a new chapter of her life, and Barbara wasn't here to see it. She'd miss this moment, and she'd miss all the other moments to come because of the choices she'd made. Part of me felt sad about that. Sophie deserved to have grandparents who celebrated these milestones with her, but the other part of me knew that Barbara's absence was a gift, in its own twisted way. Sophie got to grow up without that toxic influence, without someone constantly trying to undermine her sense of security and belonging. When I picked Sophie up that afternoon, she was bubbling with excitement. "Daddy, I made 2 new friends. Their names are Maya and Jordan, and Maya has a cat named Sprinkles, and Jordan can do a cartwheel." "That's amazing, sweetheart." That night, as I tucked her into bed, Sophie looked up at me with those big brown eyes. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Some of the other kids have grandmas who pick them up from school. I used to have Grandma Barbara, but she doesn't come anymore. Can I ask why?" I'd been dreading this question, but also preparing for it. Sophie's therapist had helped me figure out how to talk about this in an age-appropriate way. Grandma Barbara made some choices that weren't healthy for our family, I said carefully. Sometimes, even people we love can do things that hurt us. And when that happens, we have to create boundaries to keep ourselves safe. What did she do? She tried to take you away from me. She didn't understand that you and I are a team, and that nothing is more important than keeping you safe and happy. Sophie thought about this for a moment. I'm glad she didn't take me away. I like being with you. I like being with you too, sweetheart. More than anything in the world. What if she says she's sorry? Can she visit then? Someday, when you're much older, if you want to see her, we can talk about it. But right now, the answer is no. My job is to protect you, and that's what I'm doing. Sophie nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. Okay, can you read me another chapter of our book? And just like that, we moved on. Make sure to click on the screen to watch other stories.